do a lot of audiobook editing. Part of my job is producing demo reels. I produce a lot of demo reels.
Today on Time We Discuss, I have Henry Willard with me all the way from the UK. Henry, thank you for joining me today.
Hey, no worries. Pleasure to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
So, Henry, before I get started, I'd be remiss if I didn't give a quick thank you to Voiceover Pam, who connected us. So, Pam, thank you. She was featured in episode 9 of Time We Discuss. But, Henry, we're jumping right in. So, I have to ask, how did you come to be a voiceover engineer?
I was running a recording studio for someone else in my mid-20s. It was initially a studio focused on sort of local bands and artists, but quickly realized that that wasn't really current or modern. So we kind of shifted the focus to voiceover. And then I went freelance in 2021 to go out on my own, and here I am.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was looking at your website, and you have a lot of prestigious clients there. I mean, there's Coca-Cola, Starbucks, Apple. Your testimonials just kind of scrolls on and on and on. So you're definitely doing something right there.
Yeah, thanks.
So previously in other segments, I mentioned that I went to school for music production, and so as part of that, I learned that I did a couple of different avenues I could explore. I could do, work in a recording studio. I could pursue mastering. I could work at a radio station or do sync, so like film and audio. But at no point was voiceover engineer ever brought up. So how did you discover that? Was that someone approached you kind of like out of the blue, or is that something that your studio did? How did you actually discover voiceover artists?
I didn't think about the voiceover industry at all. When I was working for a studio, yeah, we just kind of started getting voiceover jobs come in. So it was just something I was doing naturally, alongside other, sort of music engineering. When I went out on my own, I'm fully remote, just set up here in my studio at home, and I'd done a lot of TV and film engineering as well, a lot of ADR in studio, but voiceover I could do remotely. I've always loved words, lyrics, and the human voice. It just felt like a great fit. I did initially explore if I could still do work within sort of film and TV as a freelance engineer, but I quickly discovered that it's very, very difficult to do when you're just kind of going out on your own, no matter what kind of clients and portfolio you've got behind you.
What was the hardest part about trying to be like that type of an engineer for music while being remote?
You've got guys and girls who have just been doing that for so long, in the city, and it's just trying to achieve that kind of level and get up to those people. It's just very, very difficult to do. I was trying to find where I could fit in. I knew that I had this skill set and I could make this work. I just needed to find the right door, and I found a niche with voiceover. Like you say, it's not really something you come across too much. And I think when I found that niche very quickly, within that first year of being freelance, I found that there was a demand for this, which is difficult to discover because everywhere is saturated, and of course there are other people doing what I do, but I've built this up really well, and I'm very, very thankful to be super busy.
When it comes to the networking that you talked about before, did you do a lot of social networking? Did you do a lot of social media posts, or was it more of like in real life? Was it a combination? Did you run ads? How did you do your networking in the very beginning, or the promoting in the very beginning?
That was purely social media, and I spent hours and hours and just put the time in. I wanted to set out with certain branding on my social media to start with, so that my posts all looked uniform. I felt that was important, so I had some sort of identity that people could recognize. But I just reached out. I looked at the voiceover industry. I was already working within the voiceover industry a fair bit anyway with my other studio position, and I use social media to just follow, connect with people. And in those, I'd say in the first 6 to 12 months, every single voice actor that followed me back on like Instagram or connected with on LinkedIn, I made sure that I sent a personal or direct message to say, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do. Great to meet you. Let's chat here if you need me. And yeah, of course, sometimes it didn't lead to anything, but you do build up those conversations with people who do want to engage, and it rapidly grew from that. So I have social media to thank a lot for just being able to, like I said, reach further corners of the voiceover industry. And it's quite interesting that, although I'm based here in the UK, I would say that 90 to 95% of my work, my client base, is actually in the US.
Let's hang on that for a second, because I've heard several people talk about they work with people all over the country, all over, the US or all over the world. But I haven't heard anyone say that most of their clients are in the US and they are somewhere else. So what's that like from a time zone difference? Is that a huge barrier? I'm assuming not, based on, everything I saw on your website. But what's that like, knowing that most of your clients are on, half a world away?
It actually worked great just for like family life. We have a 2.5-year-old, my wife and I, and once my daughter's gone to bed, I can work in the evenings, and everyone over there is still up, so it's it works fine. And even when I get stuff done in the afternoon, East Coast is kind of hitting the morning, West Coast still in bed. But yeah, it works really well, especially with West Coast clients. I can work late into the evening over here and still be working and talking. So
how quick is turnaround time usually when you're working with someone? Is it something like, I need this later today, I need this tomorrow, or I need this within a week? How much pressure is there to turn around stuff pretty quickly?
It can vary. I do get a lot of jobs come in super short notice. Voice actors just need some editing done super quick. A job's coming for them last minute, but they've got other things going on. They need me to edit something for them, or they're on vacation. They've done a quick recording in a hotel room because they've got their little travel rig. They need me to edit it and turn it around. It happens, but I'm the beauty of being freelance or working for yourself is I can manage my schedule and I can create that time more often than not. So it's usually never a problem, but it also means that for projects and jobs that come in that aren't necessarily super to a deadline, I can manage that. And I still really pride myself on super quick turnaround times, and I think that's something that I've kind of become sort of known for, and that's really good. So
let me ask you this. I was speaking with George Siegel a month or two ago, I guess. His episode just dropped maybe a few weeks ago. But I was talking to him, and one of the things we talked about was, I don't know if you're familiar with the production triangle, where the idea is that if you encounter a problem, the sooner you encounter the problem, it's cheaper to fix it the sooner you encounter it. As you start to go deeper and deeper into production, it gets more expensive to try to then fix something. So my question for you, kind of going along with that, have you ever had the pleasure of getting a recording that is just awful, and you think it's going to take me so much time to do this, it would be so much easier just to re-record it? Has anything like that ever happened to you, and how did you go about resolving that?
oh man, you put me on the spot. I have had some bad recordings come through in the past. I can, I can't think of any right off the top of my head. You know, generally, you know, I'm working with professionals. I'm lucky to be working with professional voice actors all the time, and 98 to 99% of the time, the recordings come through great. Sometimes I'll be contacted by someone who's maybe a little bit green or just starting out, and maybe the quality isn't quite there. So I just kind of assess each job individually and just see what needs to be done. Sometimes it really is, the best thing to do is to just re-record it if that's possible. I do a lot of audiobook editing. When we're talking long form, we could be talking 5, 6, 7+ hours of narration. Usually get a like a test read through, but one or two occasions, despite the test read being good and giving the narrator the go ahead, when I've kind of then received a 5-hour audiobook, sometimes there have been challenges with breaths and things like that. Someone's just constantly taking really loud breaths all the time, and on the ear that can very quickly become a little bit grating. So I have had projects like that.
Now, when I spoke to Pam, she said that some, I guess she was talking more about voiceover coaches. Do you get involved with like the voiceover coaching or like the business side of the voiceover stuff, or are you just strictly doing the voiceover engineering? What's that like for you?
I don't have much dealings with voiceover coaches. I know of many. A huge part of my job is producing demo reels. I produce a lot of demo reels. Producing demo reels allows me to be really creative. I have a really unique, fun, very personal process for producing top class demo reels. And that's when the musical creative side of me can come out and work with sound design, and I write all custom copy, all custom scripts for the demo reels I produce. So there's that side of what I do as well.
Let's hang on that for a second. So what kind of sound design do you do? How did you start getting involved with that and adding that to the list of services that you provide?
I've always kind of played around, I guess, with sound design, just experimenting with sound as a kid, as a teenager. I come from a musician background. I played around with, and just with that musical ear, I think I can just sort of hear where things need to go and where things need to be and what something needs. I'm not a full-time sound designer. There are pros out there that just do that day in, day out, and who are world class and phenomenal. But it's something that I do apply to the demo reels that I produce, and it's another part of the sort of services, as you say.
Now let's switch gears and talk about education. Did you go to school to be an engineer? How did that all unfold for you?
I did not go to school or sort of train as an engineer. I actually, after, so our education system's a little bit different to the US. So after secondary school, so like high school, where I left at 16, I went to a college here to do like a music performance kind of course, playing, performing. But I left after a year. It wasn't for me. I mean, I was already doing a huge amount of playing in bands and things musically, and doing a lot of recording as well myself. So I think I had that side. Like throughout my teens, already had like a Tascam Porter Studio, little 8-track. So I was already experimenting with recording and getting familiar with mixing and teaching myself how to work with sound. And my music education was the Beatles, Dire Straits, Bare Naked Ladies, just kind of like religiously. So I had a really good kind of musical education just in my ears anyway.
So how important was that in getting to work in the studio? Because you didn't go to school for that, but you have this extensive music background. You had the skills that you kind of built up on the side. Was it difficult to get into the studio to work, or was that pretty simple for you? What was that like?
That was luck, I'd say. The studio that I went into run when I was like 26, it was just like a small like home studio that was actually owned by my former guitar teacher when I was a kid. He was kind of looking to sort of expand his home studio and like make it kind of go public, do something with it. So yeah, he brought me on board to run the place and make that expansion happen. So I was lucky that little opportunity came along, and I was able to just really scale that.
One of the things I really like to do is try to identify different barriers that could prevent people from going into a particular industry or entering a particular occupation. So I love stories like this, where it's, you didn't get a 4-year degree for this. You found another opportunity to do what you wanted to do, and that's really awesome. I love stories like that. Henry, I am running a little short on time, but one thing I like to do is whenever I'm speaking with a guest, I like to give them the opportunity to talk about a cause they believe in, a project they're working on, more about your business. So if there's something that you'd like to discuss, the floor is yours.
I'm working on a whole bunch of demo reels. Demo reels are just hot at the moment, just producing a whole bunch for some pro voice actors. I've got audiobook edits on, do a huge amount of remote recording for pro voice actors as well, running their sessions remotely. But I've just launched a brand new website, just revamped my site, and that's at henrywillard.com. So always find out more there, or drop me a line, henry@henrywillard.com, or find me on socials, LinkedIn, Instagram. Always send me a DM.
That's awesome. I'll make sure I get all those links from you. I'll put them in the show notes in the description, so when people are looking for you, they can find you. Henry, it's been absolutely awesome speaking with you today on Time We Discuss and learn what it's like to be a voiceover audio engineer.
Thanks so much. Appreciate you having me.